Hello and welcome to the Eye on the U podcast, the Miami Herald's Miami Hurricanes podcast. I'm David Wilson and I am joined, as always, on the other line. She signed exactly as many players as the Miami Hurricanes today. It's Susan Miller-Degnan, our Hurricanes beat writer here at the Herald. Susan, what's going on? How was your signing day?
Signing day was, boring.
The least stressful signing day you've ever had?
Ever. Yep.
We're recording. It's a little after 6 p.m. on Wednesday, National Signing Day, which was easily the least exciting National Signing Day that I can remember. I've only been doing this as a job for so many years, but I've always loved signing day, even like going back to when I was in high school watching the ESPNU coverage of it. Obviously that is because of the early signing period. Miami did not sign a single high school player today, which was not surprising coming into the day. We didn't expect it. We talked last week about why that's not a big deal. They already signed 25 guys in December, have a top 10 class in the country, number one class in the ACC. 25 is traditionally the number you take in a class. So they were just kind of done. Obviously, they wanted to get Cormani McLean. We talked a few weeks ago about him flipping to Colorado. They had like that slim glimmer of hope that maybe they could get Nicholas Harbor to come down for a visit at some point and really get into that sweepstakes. He never made it down to South Florida, though. He ends up signing with South Carolina today. They made a late little run at Jamel Howard, kind of under the radar defensive tackle outside the top 1,000 in the national rankings. From the Midwest, he ends up going back to Wisconsin where he was previously committed. So Miami goes like 0 for 2, but like not really, right? Like those
Right, not really.
So,
We didn't.
not a big deal. There's really not a lot to talk about. I guess we could talk about how good their class was even without doing anything today.
Yeah, I mean they're close, David. Their class.
I don't even know where the numbers finish. You've been tracking that.
Yeah, I mean, well, actually, I have to check again.
I mean, it keeps changing. Obviously, a couple more guys. I think Deuce Robinson didn't
bet
sign today, right? That could change things.
I better check again. But last month, after the early signing period, they were number 3 in the On3 and ESPN rankings, and number 4 in 247 Sports, and number 5 in Rivals. And as of Wednesday, they were ranked 5th by ESPN, 6th by On3, and 7th by Rivals and 247 Sports. And I'll have to actually check that again a little bit later.
I've got 24/7s up. They're still 7th there. So
you're checking, Tony. You should. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, they're still going to wind up at the top 10 class. As we talked about last week, this is the way college football is now. What we went through, only 5 of the top 100 recruits in the 24/7 composite rankings were unsigned entering the day. Even fewer, obviously, uncommitted. Andrew Ivins from 24/7, he did it compiled it all and said 95% of the blue chip recruits were already signed going into National Signing Day. So there was just not a lot, obviously, that Miami could add to the class. They clearly prioritized some transfer stuff. Announced a couple of those guys today, right? Matt Lee, Terry Roberts, who else? Cam McCormick they announced, and Branson Dean. So they could announce something. Obviously, transfers don't sign national letters of intent like that. A lot of them are already on campus. So there's not a whole lot to say other than college football has changed. We'll see if it changes again. These things always go in cycles, but this year it certainly was like a situation where there was not a lot to be done between now and January.
Yeah, for sure. It's just the whole face of recruiting. It's so different. It's so weird. I mean, National Signing Day, this was so big, like you said.
Yeah, it used to be January was the big visit season, right? It was everyone was trying to every weekend. Miami had one weekend with visitors this year, basically. And now it's that rush between Thanksgiving and it's that December is the hectic period, right? Where the season ends
and everybody always wanted that last one in January. And
now you want that last one on like January or on December 18th or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was very strange. I I kind of like that it was quiet and it was crazy before, and I guess it'll continue like that, right? You think?
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting because some kids like it's who has the leverage, right? It's either the schools or the players have the leverage, and like a guy like Nicholas Harbor, as I think I said this last week, could afford to wait, or Cormani McLean, even better example, could afford to wait because like Miami's not gonna like pass on him, right? Like he could wait, he could
Correct.
wait until July 3rd and say, all right, I'm gonna go wherever, and the school will figure it out for him. But for the like 3 and 4-star guys, like the lower 4-star guys, like where it's a lot of like preference and you know, maybe you'll take a guy who's ranked lower than another guy, or you'll take just kind of whoever commits first and locks in just to make sure you have it. Those guys, there's gonna be pressure because they don't have leverage from the school, or they don't have the leverage on the school, but some guys have leverage over the school. And I have to think this is as extreme as it will get. Like I said, 95% and 95% of the top 100 already signed. Like that's obviously a huge number.
Crazy, right? Yeah.
But I don't think it's gonna, unless they get rid of the early signing period, which I know some coaches would like because of how hard it is to recruit while the season's going. You know, I think coaches like to have January as recruiting season, like fall is football season, December is bowl season and playoff season, January is recruiting season. But as long as it's like this, I mean, it's still going to be like 90% of the guys worth noting every year are going to be signed early.
Yep. And I just checked and everything's the same. Fifth, UM's class is now number 5 by ESPN, number 6 by On3, and number 7 by Rivals and 247 Sports. That's a great year.
I mean, most of the powers, I mean, like I don't remember seeing anyone pick Alabama today. I don't remember anyone picking Clemson today, right? Like there were a couple of guys here and there, but for the most part, like Miami is not an outlier at all in not having anyone signed. All right, bigger topic today is the situation of Miami's offensive coordinator. We recorded last week, Thursday night, and about 12 hours later, Miami fires, part ways, whatever you want to put it, with Josh Gattis after just one season as offensive coordinator. We did talk last week about that we kind of thought it was coming at some point. The question was when. So obviously neither of us are surprised that this happened. But now Miami begins a very, very important moment here for Mario Cristobal. Obviously, he's not going to be on the hot seat, I think, no matter what happens next year. So, like, I think I've seen some people say, like, this is the biggest moment of Mario's tenure. This is the biggest hire he's going to have. Like, in some ways, yes, because last year was a disaster and they got to totally fix the offense, like, kind of from scratch in some ways. Obviously, I think they've got a good quarterback, but in the other way, like he's gonna probably, if this goes high or goes well, he's gonna have to hire another offensive coordinator one day. So I guess I don't want to get too much into specific names. I think it's a little too early to really like dive into who exactly is going to be the targets. Alabama, we should note, is also currently trying to hire an offensive coordinator. And Mario and Saban obviously have some similar philosophies and have coached together. So like they're going to be, even if not necessarily looking at the exact same list of guys, I'm sure there'll be some overlap in the type of guys they are targeting.
Yeah.
So I want to go kind of broader and more philosophical. What does Miami need in this next offensive coordinator? Not who should they be looking for? What should they be looking for?
Well, I think they need someone who will serve a dual role, which is a conventional way to do it, who is somebody who's the offensive coordinator and the quarterback's coach. I think, Frank Ponce being the quarterback's coach, and he left, as we know, to go back to App State and become the offensive coordinator. I think there was a disconnect between him and, and Gattis.
Yeah, two guys who had never worked together. We should I said it a lot.
I think it's better when it's one person. I do. Yeah, I think that, and then if that happened, Gaddis served as the receivers coach too.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they could get like a separate receivers coach. Right. I think they need the one person who does both, it seems, to me. And what else are they looking for? They're looking, I mean, Gaddis always wanted to the running game was super important to him. They wanted to have that whatever they do, like kind of a conventional offense, like a
Power spread is
offense,
what they would call it.
a power
Yeah.
spread, like a conventional kind of an NFL kind of offense, and yet they still, I don't know. I know you and I think the same. We like when they throw it a lot,
Yeah.
and when they have a ton of receivers on the field, and that's what colleges do nowadays. Mario wants to make sure there's a strong running game. I don't blame him. I mean,
Yeah.
running.
Well, and we should say their offensive line on paper could be really, really good next year.
We should say that. I think that offensive line is going to make hopefully a huge difference.
Yeah.
And so maybe some people will be able to run behind that, and maybe some kids like Trevante Citizen will be healed. I'm not sure, healed enough to now play, and actually they had so many injuries, I know they signed some good Mark Fletcher, right?
Yeah, Mark Fletcher, I think will help right away in some capacity. I mean, he's not going to start probably.
No, but hopefully they'll be able to run a little. Yeah, it's got to be somebody who gets along very well. I wasn't sure about Gattis, from what I had heard, how much the players felt strongly about him or felt connected to him.
Well, I will say it also, if they were winning, I'm sure they'd feel better about him, right? It's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy in some ways. But I guess we should say a couple things. One, like Gattis was doing a lot of the stuff that Mario wants him to do, right? Like we've talked about that a million times. Like Miami under Mario Cristobal, like they would like to look like what Michigan looked like, right? Like what they look like now, where they are a run heavy team. The quarterback can make a couple throws, really good offensive line. I mean, you look at their offensive line next year and they could have like 4 or 5 future NFL guys on that line. Like that would go a long way, to the point where you could bring Josh Gattis back next year, have him do the exact same thing, and the offense would be a lot better. Like I feel very confident about that. Like the offense is only going to change so much. At the same time, I just think the offense, to me, we, like you said, we both like spread offenses in college football. I think the quarterback play really, really struggled. And I know the excuse will be, Tyler was hurt and we had to start Jakari Brown and Jake Garcia. But Jake Garcia, who is this big time recruit, did not look anything like, we obviously didn't see him playing big spots before last year, but did not look like a guy who was at one point thought of as maybe the best quarterback recruit in the country or way up there. And Tyler Van Dyke was good in the North Carolina game. That was, I think, a talking point that Mario used a handful of times. But like they did bench him against Middle Tennessee because he was bad. Like so, whatever it was that went wrong, and I think you're on to something with the quarterback coach and offensive coordinator responsibilities being divided, and not just divided, but divided between two guys who did not have a working relationship before last year. I think has a lot to do with it, but I think also like a better scheme, a more creative scheme, a more aggressive scheme, honestly, more throws on first down. Like that helps a quarterback a lot. And I don't think, I said it a couple times that Mario, it's a tricky spot he was in last year in some ways, because the offense that he wants to run long-term is kind of similar to what Josh Gattis was running, but it was definitely not the offense best suited to last year's team. And it was a real philosophical question is, do you run the offense best for a team in this specific year, knowing that next year you're going to probably have to change that offense again? Or do you just start implementing your system, your philosophies, even if it's to the detriment of last year's team? Now at the same time, I think like just whatever tack they opted to take, and they clearly took the latter.
Right.
It wasn't good enough.
I don't think you ever do anything to the detriment of the current team. That's my opinion.
I think they did, and I think that was the idea. I don't know that for sure, but I think they wanted to start getting to the Mario Cristobal philosophy.
Right.
I mean, you saw them change throughout the year, right? Like the North Carolina game.
Yeah, they did.
Swung it around, and it worked a lot better.
Yep. Yeah. You have to play to your team's strengths.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to be there forever, those kids. And it's the nature. It's not like they're going to be there for a long time. And you got to see what you have and then mold your team to that. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to totally change your offense, but I mean, Tyler Van Dyke the year before, and I know he was injured, and I think that was misplayed too, the way UM did it.
Yeah.
Personally,
and I don't think that's Josh Gattis' fault.
And I don't care how much they said he's fine. Come on, if someone like who's not a professional medical person could realize right away that all he has to do is get hit in the shoulder once and he's done. I mean, if I like, how could they? I don't know. How could they not have realized that? I think he came back in too soon. So, yeah. So we'll see what happens with Gattis's replacement. I know that Mario was really into Gattis. He won the Broyles Award. Remember that? And during March.
Yeah, I will say Mario. I don't know how much he actually cared. Like, I don't know if that was. He cares about the Broyles Award, but he likes being able to talk about stuff like the Broyles Award.
Yeah, right? I mean, he talked about that a lot. Hey, I got guys that he was good enough to win the Broyles Award.
Yeah, guys who are good in other places. So I mean, So I think he's gonna go for a big name in some capacity. Like, it's not like he's gonna try to take a guy from who's like a hot shot, like offensive wizard at like a lower level school and say, all right, we're going to give you your shot here at Miami. I think, I just know on like Twitter or whatever, Miami fans, Scott Frost's name has been thrown around.
Right.
I've even seen Dan Mullen's name thrown around. Honestly, Dan Mullen, I think Dan Mullen would be an awesome offensive coordinator, and would really fit with Mario's philosophies with like the run heavy stuff. And man, he would be really good with Jakari Brown. I'm kind of talking myself into the Dan Mullen thing. But I think it's like right to kind of throw around these big names because I think that's what they're going to go for.
I agree. I think that'll happen too. Other than Mario, if he goes for somebody that maybe's not a big name, everything's relative. What you call a big name,
yeah.
But it's somebody he knows, somebody he worked with, or something. He, obviously,
Marcus Arroyo is another one who has been mentioned, who was obviously worked with him at Oregon and had been the coach at UNLV the last couple of years. Did not work out there at UNLV. He was fired late last year. But I mean, I talked a lot about how I didn't like how it was like this, I don't want to say mercenary thing, but it was guys who had not really worked together. I think there is something to be said for guys working together, having experience working with each other.
Definitely. And one thing we know about Mario is he takes his time. So
yeah, they're not going to rush it.
Yeah, he takes his time. So
especially now, like in sometimes you'd be rushing for the signing day or whatever, but the fact that there was no one to worry about for signing day meant they could fire their offensive coordinator 5 days before signing day and it not be a big deal.
And now the only thing that and this is a great segue to our next segment, maybe if this was what you want to do for the next segment, but it would be good if he had somebody by March 4th, which we learned this week is for opening day of spring practice. Okay?
I feel confident they will have someone by March 4th.
Okay, well, that's good because March 4th is spring practice begins, and we reported that and it ends April 14th, we learned, with the spring game at, what's it, DRV Pink Stadium?
Yeah, Drive Pink Stadium, I believe is how it is pronounced.
Oh, Drive, sorry about that. Drive Pink Stadium. Anyway, it's the same place they had it last year, the old.
I think they were very happy with how it worked there last year, is the sense I got.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
It was fun, you know.
Very good size for a spring game, centrally located, Broward County, right? You get people from all over South Florida there.
Yeah, really great. And the as I said, the twist this year is it's on a Friday night. They didn't say the time, but I think it'll be
yeah,
Friday
they said
night.
it'll be Friday. Obviously, it'll be Friday night. They're not going to play their spring game at noon on a Friday.
Yeah, it's going to be Friday night, April 14th. It will be televised by the ACC network, which is how their ACC network is like organizing everything. They're televising.
There are a lot of spring games this year, like weeknight. I think the Gators are on Thursday night, and it's all driven by TV stuff, so that the
exactly.
ACC network, SEC network, ESPN, you can show as many as possible.
Right, that's what'll happen. So that's kind of, so we know that, and we'll have the offensive coordinator hopefully by then, and UM also announced, well, the ACC also announced the football schedule this week, so for this fall. So we know the schedule. I don't know, what do you think of the schedule? I'm not thrilled.
You don't like that 8 in a row to end the year?
It's not even the 8 in a row. So we knew that they were going to start with 4 non-conference games. We knew that.
Yep.
And we know that one of them is Texas A&M, and even though it's the SEC, Texas A&M finished 2-6 in the ACC last year and 5-7 overall. No one could have known that, but it's still, come on, it's still Texas A&M. Yeah. It's not
one of the most talented rosters in the country. They just hired Bobby Petrino. Like, they should be better than they were last year. Right
now, so they have 8 in a row. One thing I don't like is their bye week again. Wasn't it early last year?
I believe it was the same one. I think it was after week 4 last year also.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure, but it's after week 4. It's after the Temple game. So they have 2 weeks after the Temple game. They have a bye week. That's their only technically official bye week. The next weekend, September 30th. That's a Saturday, bye Saturday. And then they start Georgia Tech. And I mean, okay, they have 2 weeks to prepare for Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, I don't know how they're going to be this year, but they were 5. Okay, but 5-7. So it's not like you have 2 weeks to prepare for whatever, North Carolina or something. And then it's 8 games in a row at Clemson, and then at North Carolina, after Georgia Tech, at North Carolina, and then Clemson. So those are 2 tough games right in a row. North Carolina, Clemson, fine. Okay. The last 3 out of 4 games, David, are on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it starts with at Florida State, November 11th. Then Louisville is November 18th, and at Boston College. I'm sorry. November 4th at North Carolina State, at NC State November 4th, at Florida State the next week, Louisville at home for the last home game, and then at Boston College on November 25th. I know I'm the weather person, but it's cold. It is cold on November 25th. So you've got 3 out of 4 away games. The last one is they'll be able to deal with the cold, but it's still I don't know. I just don't think it's, and I thought it was fascinating that they have 4 Saturdays off. 4. Because
that's the crazy thing about the schedule. Yeah,
they have 2 Friday games.
Selfishly, I love that.
Yeah, I love it too. The first Friday, September 1st, right, is they play Miami of Ohio,
The Miami Bowl.
The Miami Bowl, right. And I figured this out, and that's on a Friday. And then the
Yep.
last game against Boston
Yeah, the
College
day after Thanksgiving. They're in the
is the
Friday
day
slot
after.
there. Yeah.
It's a day after Thanksgiving, right?
And then
then
we
they
were talked
have
a couple of weeks ago, the Bethune
the
Cookman game is a weeknight game as well.
oh, the Bethune-Cookman game, right? Is a Thursday, so that gives you a Friday. What's the fourth one?
Well,
That's
the bye
one,
week.
2, and the bye week. So it's kind of a crazy, I don't know. And then I tweeted this out. I figured it out and tweeted it. I have to find my tweet. I thought this was interesting. Let me find it. Okay. Oh, no. Okay. I figured out their first. Hold on. I'm retweeting stuff here. Okay. I promise.
To me, the tough
Here
part
it
is
is. Here
the
it is.
8 and 8
Wait,
time
I found
year.
it.
All right. Sorry, I'm starting to stall.
Yeah, sorry guys. Okay. So I just got the three of last 4 games on the road. Okay. 4 open Saturdays, 7 of 12 opponents with losing records in this past season, 7 of 12. Here it is, a combined 2022 record for the first opponents, 21 and 39. Okay, their first 5 opponents were 21 and 39.
Yeah.
Their last 7 opponents were 52 and 37.
Yes.
I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, that's
all
interesting.
Of that.
They got to pile up wins early because, like you said, it gets tough down the stretch.
Have to. Yeah.
What? Basically starting, I think Clemson's October 21st. From there, it's pretty tough.
Yeah. And North Carolina, no?
When is the North Carolina game?
The week before Clemson.
Oh, is it the week before? Yeah, so you're right. It's that.
It's on the road. So
October 14th. Yeah, you go at UNC versus Clemson. Home against Virginia. Should be better, but they were bad last year. Then at NC State, at Florida State versus Louisville, who is, probably should be a bowl team at least.
Right.
And then you finish at Boston
I
College,
don't know.
which should be a win, but that's hard. Friday after Thanksgiving on the road. It could be pretty tough.
Yeah. So that's my take on that schedule.
But still, 7-12 against teams with losing records. Could be worse. Got to make a bowl game, but you got to win. You got to win those early games. All right, I think we can close things out there. You can follow Susan on Twitter at @SMillerDegnan. Follow me on Twitter at DBWilson2. I'll be up in Broward County for most of the week for NHL All-Star stuff, which should be fun. So
really fun.
Check out Miami Herald for our coverage of that, or if you're out there, look out for me and say hi or whatever.
Get his autograph.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway, thanks again for listening, and we will talk to you guys a little bit later.